I want y'all to tell the truth. Yellow is my color, ain't it? It's my color. I know. But welcome to my channel featuring my yellow top today. For those who are new here, my name is Elizabeth Ayola. I am a full-time writer and a spokesperson. And today I want to talk to you guys about how I am trying or attempting and speaking it into existence, building generational wealth now. And I'm starting with my son. So for those who don't know, I am a mother. I am a mom to a boy who is 6. And I'm a single mom as well. I do not come from wealth. I am attempting to build first generation wealth. And I'm going to describe in this video the ways I'm trying to do that, specifically not specifically, but with my son and kind of myself too. So for all the parents out there or aspiring parents, or even people who are just caring for children, who are thinking about how they can set their kids up for financial success, I'm just sharing what I did, not what everyone should do, because everyone's situation is different. I'm just sharing tips in terms of what I did, and you can do with that as you please. And I will add that I do have an article. Y'all know I always got an article that I wrote. It was featured on NASDAQ as well as other publications about how to invest as a parent. Now, the first tip I'm going to share, or step that I took on that note, is starting to invest for my son. For people who haven't even started investing for themselves, they're probably like, I ain't even invested for myself. I don't even know where to start. Good place to start, well, for me personally, has been a 529 account. Now, for those who don't know what a 529 account is, it is essentially a savings account that you use for education expenses. I believe $10,000 per year can go towards private, elementary, secondary school, or college tuition, which we know is high. Now, what I love about 529 accounts is that they have tax advantages. So you get tax-free growth, which means the money can stay in the account invested and grow without you paying any taxes on it. And also, when it's time to take the money out to spend it, you get to spend it, also withdraw it tax-free, as long as it's used on qualified education expenses. So that said, I've known about 529 accounts for a while, but I wasn't sold on them because we all know how quickly the world is evolving. And I'm like, well, what if my son doesn't want to go to college or doesn't want to go the traditional higher education route? And then the government did its big one, and it introduced the Secure Act 2.0. I don't know if y'all heard about that, but what it essentially did for 529 accounts is it made it possible for unused funds to be rolled into an IRA, individual retirement account, for your child. And I absolutely love that, because now I have peace of mind that if my son does decide that, hey, I'm not trying to go to college and he wants to take a different route, then he can basically transfer some, not all of the funds, depending how much you saved, into a retirement account and start saving for retirement. And I can't express, did I say I love it? I love it. One thing the government did right. I ran, not walked, to open a 529 account, I think last year or 2 years ago. After that change happened, okay? So that is one way that I'm saving for my son, so that, his money can grow. And I do want to say, I know everyone's financial situation is different, and you might think, oh, I can't really afford to put money in there because I'm barely surviving, or I just ain't got it. You don't have to start with a lot of money. You can start with $5, $2, $1, right? The advantage that our kids have, especially if they're young, is that they have a long time for their money to compound, which is when your money makes money and grow in investing accounts. So the sooner you start, the better. But yeah, that's what Elizabeth, did. And then I was really, really blessed. My son is autistic, to find a grant that he's eligible for in Florida called the Gardenier. It's the Gardenier Fund or grant. Anyway, if you Google it, you'll see it. And what happens is he gets free money, basically, that goes towards education. And because they're so, you can put money into a 529 account. So I was able to save thousands of dollars for him just from that grant. And I'm so thankful for that. So you also want to look out, especially if your child has special needs, to see if there are any grants available, and if you can maybe use those funds, if you don't have to use them for other things, to kickstart their investing account. Savings, yeah. Another thing I did aside from 529 accounts is a UGMA or UTMA, UGMA/UTMA. And what these accounts are is just essentially custodial or investing accounts for kids. So I opened this for my son during the pandemic when we got the little stimmies. I wish we could get the stimmies again, but I don't think they're coming back, y'all. So I opened UGMA up for him, and I put in his stimulus check in there. And that was a couple years ago. And now that I think it started with around $2,000, it's grown to about $3,000, right? Just from that initial deposit and investing it in different stocks and stuff. So again, he has compound interest on his time. He's only 6 now. So even if I never add any more money to that, I'm going to show you an example with a compound interest calculator, but that money can essentially multiply and grow to be so much more just from the initial investment. Another thing I have found to be a really important step in, 1, building generational wealth, and 2, ensuring my son's financial future is secure, is getting life insurance. Life insurance. You know, I know we don't like to think about dying, especially people of color. It's like superstitious, so I don't even want to say that out loud because I want to live my best life. But the reality is we don't know when we're going to die, and we owe it to our kids to at least give them some kind of financial security if we happen to die prematurely. So I do have life insurance. The beautiful thing about life insurance is that if I do die prematurely, my son is financially taken care of, right? So, you know, don't have to open a GoFundMe, and that is no shade to people that do. But, you know, it won't be that we have to, or my family has to crowdfund money because I didn't have no life insurance. So I currently have term life insurance versus whole life. There's a debate about which is better. Not here to get into that debate, but term life insurance ends at a certain time, whereas whole life, you know, pay the premiums for the rest of your life, and it covers you the rest of your life. For the most part, there's lots of details in it. But so I have term life insurance until my son is in his mid-20s. So if something happens to me before then, he has a huge chunk of money that can help sustain him until he becomes independent. Now, I used to have whole life, but I switched to term life because 1, the premiums are cheaper. So for people who are conscious about how much they spend on premiums or the monthly payments, term tends to be cheaper. Another reason is because you can get a larger amount for less when you get term life insurance. Because I have a young child, you know, I have had to calculate how much will he need to sustain him for, you know, until he's an adult and financially independent. And that is a large chunk of money, and it's more affordable with term insurance. And the third thing is I don't necessarily want to pay premiums for the rest of my life because I am building wealth, and the hope is that by the time I am older, that I will have enough assets to pass on to my son, you know, when I die, which is obviously when I'm old and gray, right? Because I have so much life to live. Yes, life insurance is very important. Yeah, consider getting it if you don't already. The third thing I'm doing to help build generational wealth that I can pass on to my son, and hopefully he can pass on to the 10 kids he says he wants, is setting up an estate plan. Now, this is near and dear to my heart because if you do not have a will or estate plan in place, all the hard work that you're doing to create the wealth for your kids can go down the drain. We have seen it play out in movies, but I want y'all to remember these movies are usually based on real life stories, okay? And even worse, your loved ones may also have to go through probate, which can be a lengthy and expensive process where the courts decide where your assets go. Now imagine gathering all these assets your whole life and the court gets to decide who gets them. I don't think that that is an enjoyable experience for anybody. So I did my estate plan last year, and it's one of the best things I ever did. It was a long and hard process, and I will say hard in the sense that I really had to think about who I trust to manage my assets, who I trust to make decisions for me about my health if I'm incapacitated, and who I trust to be a guardian over my son. And those are hard decisions to make, but important ones. And estate planning also reminds you of your mortality, which is always a hard pill to swallow, right? But I finally did mine. It's the best decision that I made, and I know that my son's financial future is secure because I took the time to do an estate plan. For people who are worried about the cost, there are free templates online that you can use. If you have a complicated estate, which means maybe you have tons of different assets and you married and remarried and, you know, you just have kind of lots of things going on, then you may want to consider hiring an estate planner. I want you to think about how much more expensive it's going to be if you die without any plan, right? And how that could impact your kids, okay? The things that I have in my estate plan are a living trust, a power of attorney, a healthcare proxy, and also a power of attorney for my finances, and also a living will. If you are not sure what all these things are, you can always Google them, because I don't want to make this video longer than it needs to be. But at bare minimum, you can just have a will. It may still have to go through probate depending, but at least have a will in place to say what your last wishes are and what you want to happen to your kids and your things and your money. And I also will add, you don't have to set up a trust. I in particular chose to set up a trust because you have more flexibility and more things you can do than if you just do a will. So you can say with a trust how you want your assets to be distributed. And I definitely wanted to say that. So in my trust, I'm able to say when my son is going to receive the assets and under what conditions. Also, when you have a trust, sometimes it can protect your money from debtors. So if you owe a lot of debt, debtors can't get usually to the money inside of your trust. This is an intangible type of generational wealth, but I would say it's probably one of the most important, because if I leave my son assets, you know, if I build him up a bulky retirement savings, or, you know, I die prematurely and he gets all my life insurance funds, but he doesn't know how to manage money, this is how people end up squandering wealth and it doesn't get passed on to the next generation. So the next thing I will say that I'm doing is improving my financial literacy and also sharing age-appropriate financial tips with my son. I am so blessed, and I believe my steps are guided, and that is how I found myself working in personal finance, because this was not an aspiration I had growing up. But as a writer, I did get to a point where I said, I need to sort out my own personal finances, and a great way to do that would be by getting a job writing about personal finance, because then I'd have to learn about it every day. So I am so blessed. Over the past 4 years, I have learned so much. I have attained so much invaluable knowledge that I've been able to apply to my own personal finances. And it is really gratifying to be able to teach my son in age-appropriate ways the information I know, and even just share it with my family and friends. I'm able to talk to my dad and tell him, hey, maybe you can do this and this. I'm able to give tips to my sisters, my friends, everyone. And it really is a great feeling. And also, it is very cute. My son knows I write about money. I'm also on the NerdWallet podcast as a co-host. So he listens to it and he goes, oh, that's you, that's your job. And, you know, he's like, he knows what I do. So he's like, you're writing about money. So I just love that so much. And I know that he's going to make great financial decisions, Ayo, because of the information that I share with him. Start there, just read, try to read news headlines, go to nerdwallet.com, of course, read the content we have on there, and just try to educate yourself so you can pass that knowledge on to your kids too. I also will add that in the Black community, I'm not going to start pulling up statistics because we already probably know how bad the situation is, but we definitely need more financial literacy. And I will put out there, a lot of it, I would say, is attributed to systemic racism, why we are behind in terms of financial literacy. But what we can do is share videos like this, share information, share knowledge, apply it, and then I believe we can help to kind of close that gap. And if you want to learn more about generational wealth and how it affects Black people, I did write an article and do a video about it on NerdWallet, which is right here. So you can head over and watch that, read the article, whichever you prefer. So the final thing that I am doing, guys, to help to build generational wealth and set my son up for a great financial future is focusing on my savings. Because if I do not focus on my savings and my future, then how do I pass on any wealth to my son? So I struggled with this at first, especially when I wasn't earning much money, because I'm like, I have to save for my son, but it's like, girl, you don't even have nothing saved for yourself, you know? And I know, especially within the Black community or communities of color, it is an unspoken expected or cultural expectation that we're going to care for our parents as they age. And while, you know, there is no right or wrong on this, it's just about your morals and your values, we have have to be mindful about how that affects our financial future. So as they say, put your mask on first before you dive in and try to help other people. So if you don't work towards saving for your retirement and ensuring that you have financial stability in the future, you could end up, burdening your child with that financial responsibility when they haven't even built, financial stability for themselves, which in my personal opinion is unfair. So I am working very hard to ensure that I have enough to live on and that I can even have surplus to give to him, because outliving your retirement savings is a real thing. It is happening to people every day. They're having to go back to work, or, illness comes upon them that's beyond their control. All of their retirement funds are depleted and they have nothing to pass on to their kids. So definitely prioritize yourself and your savings, and whatever you have kind of left over, you can budget to put towards a 529 account, life insurance, or any kind of other security that is going to help your child in the future. So guys, I know everyone's financial situation is different. Someone commented on my other video and was like, yeah, you can only do this if you have money. Start where you are. Obviously, this is not financial advice, but start where you are. If you have $1, $2 that you can put in a 529 or in a brokerage account, custodial account for your kid or for yourself, if you can boost up your 401k contributions a little bit or put money into an IRA, do that, because time is on your side when you are investing and trying to build wealth, right? Especially in the stock market. You need time for your money to grow. So the earlier you start, the better. Thank you guys for watching. And I also want to thank you for watching, because you watching shows that you are trying to acquire knowledge to create a better future for your kids, hopefully, than you had. Okay? All right, guys. Catch you on the other side or in another video. Share, like, subscribe. If you like for nothing, at least like for my yellow top, okay? All right. Have a great day. Chocolate kisses.